Alright, so apparently both my batteries died. And so I had to stop the video. It's now a few hours later, and I will just jump right back into the story because it's long and I need to get it done. I was talking about how the contractions weren't really hurting, but my round ligaments were extremely sore. And also my ribs were extremely sore because with each contraction was this hardening, muscle inside of me, and it was pushing up against my ribs. And it was just, my ribs at this point feel very bruised, just everyday life. And so having consistent contractions that are tightening and pushing against that bruising is very painful. Basically, I was just sitting on the monitors for a couple of hours, and then, it got to the point where we were both very, very hungry because we hadn't had dinner yet. It was like probably about 8 o'clock at this point. So I went ahead and sent Michael home to get whatever I would need to be comfortable in the hospital overnight, so like my toothbrush and toothpaste and that kind of stuff, and then also to get food. And initially I was going to send him home for the night so he could rest before going to work the next day, but while he was gone I decided that I just really needed him there, and so he also picked up whatever he would need for the night. While he was gone, unfortunately the timing just so happened that that was when my contractions got the most intense, and I was very overwhelmed because I was all alone. I had no one to help me. At this point I was sitting reclined in the bed, which is not a comfortable position for me ever. Like during pregnancy, it's never comfortable for me to be reclined like that. It just hurts. It puts too much pressure on my back and my hips. But I thought that I had to be in that position for the monitors, and so I didn't think I was allowed to move. And so I was very, very uncomfortable. My back was killing me. I was having these intense contractions where I really felt like I wasn't able to catch my breath, and I was completely alone. And I didn't know exactly when Michael was going to get back. My phone was dead and I couldn't get up to go get the charger to charge it because I was strapped up to the monitors. And it was basically me just getting through each second because I mentally was overwhelmed. I was pretty much on the verge of tears, and I just was not handling things super well. Like I said, that was probably around 8. Shift changes had already happened, and I hadn't seen my nurse yet, so I was completely alone for this good 2-hour chunk of time. And finally the nurse came in. She brings me the medicine. It was either 8 or 9 that happened, so maybe Michael left earlier. I don't remember at this point. Finally Michael got back about 2 hours after leaving, which I knew he thought it was going to be a quick 30-minute trip. I knew it was going to be at least an hour. I didn't realize how long it would take. So it ended up being like a 2-hour trip for him. Luckily the medicine did start to kick in. It started to ease up the contractions, and so we both ate. I really haven't had much of an appetite these past few days, in the few days before this all happened, and so I didn't really eat a whole ton, but I did eat because I was hungry. I knew my body needed the food, and I just kept contracting on the monitors, and the nurses would come in every once in a while and check my blood pressure and my vitals and my temperature and look at the contraction monitor and the baby's monitor just to make sure everything was going well with that. Michael and I just kind of hung out and talked and played on our phones and just hung out. And finally around 11 o'clock, if I had to guess, we went ahead and got ready for bed and laid down. And by this point Michael had asked for me if I was allowed to switch positions in bed, and the nurse was totally okay with it, which helped so much with my back pain. I was able to roll over to my side, but unfortunately the beds there are just not comfortable, and I had been in such an uncomfortable position for so long that I knew it was going to take a lot for my back to feel better, and laying on my side wasn't going to be what I needed. I needed to be able to get up and walk around, and that just was not an option because I had to be monitored. So I was still very uncomfortable. Michael was doing so much, and he was trying so hard just to keep me comfortable, and I eventually said, you know what, hon, just get some sleep. It's late. You need sleep so you can be ready for tomorrow, because I knew nurses were going to be in and out all night, and it was going to be loud, and because those walls were so thin, we could hear our neighbors talking. We could hear the nurses out in the hall talking. It was so loud. And so I had him go to sleep, and I just kind of basically watched the monitors for the next, until I think I finally got a little bit of sleep around 4 a.m. I got probably off and on 2 hours of sleep altogether. And the nurses were seriously in and out all the time, constantly coming in and out, because the baby kept moving and they wanted to monitor him, and so they were spending so much time trying to keep him on the monitors. And so I really had people coming in probably every 20 minutes. And there were times that those poor nurses were sitting in there with me for 20 minutes at a time trying to find him on the monitor, because every time they'd find him, he'd move immediately. So, funny story, those bands that go around you, two of them cover half my stomach, and I had to have at least two for the monitors. And there was one point where I had probably at least 4 bands on my stomach, plus 2 little hand towels to keep the monitors angled correctly, and it still did not work. And so it was a mess. The nurses kept making jokes, and they kept being like, she's so tiny, and her belly, she's all belly, and all of these bands are hiding her, and like you can't even see her through all this stuff on her stomach. And it was true. I mean, everything that was on my stomach like doubled the size of my stomach underneath the gown, because it was just so much going on. Anyway, so morning comes, and I was miserable. I was cranky, I was very tired. Of course, the second I fell asleep, finally in the morning, someone walked in, and I was wide awake. And there was no going back to sleep, and my back still hurt, and I just was not having it. I was very upset. I felt mentally trapped. And there's something just about being in a hospital gown and being in a hospital bed and not being allowed to do anything that really just makes you feel inhuman. And mentally, I was just fed up. I was ready to walk out of the hospital. I was done. Plus, Michael was still asleep, so I couldn't talk with anyone through this. I was just having to get through it. I got my morning dose of medicine, and just a couple hours later, the doctor came in and looked through stuff and looked through the monitors and talked with us, and he let us know he was going to release us that day, and that the meds seemed to be doing exactly what they were supposed to. Luckily, I didn't have any issues with my blood pressure dropping or anything like that. And so we had to hang out until 1 so I could get my 3rd dose of medicine, and they could monitor me for a couple more hours after that 3rd dose, and then everything was okay, and so they released us. So after they released us, we went ahead and went home, and Michael had to hurry up and go to work, and I had a prenatal appointment with my midwives that afternoon. I actually was supposed to have it at 11 that morning, and I called in and explained the situation, and the receptionist was like, oh, you could just come in later. And so on the way home, we stopped at the pharmacy, picked up my prescription of Procardia, and headed home. We both quickly showered. He went to work, I went to my appointment, and then I came home and slept. That's the huge long story of what happened. They placed me on nifedipine, which is the generic version of Procardia, which I already explained. I take 10 milligrams 3 times a day, so that's 10 milligrams every 8 hours. And so 7 a.m., 3 p.m., and 11 p.m. I'm taking it. And it really, truly, today's my first day being like fully on it by myself, and it really is doing its job. I can tell when my dose is starting to wear off, because I do feel contractions come on more, but they are so mild compared to what they were. Once the dose is kicked in fully, I don't feel them at all unless I push on my stomach, and I can feel the hardness and the tightness. And as the dose is wearing off, I will start to kind of feel them come on, but it's nothing like what it was. I know that all of this has given me kind of a peek into what labor will be like, and wow, it is intense. I had none of like the pain, and I say pain like that because I know pain is a hard word to hear. It automatically gives you a horrible like connotation in your head, but most people would describe it as pain during labor. I had none of that, but I did have the intensity of the frequent back-to-back tightening and all of that, and it's truly exhausting on your body. It's so exhausting and draining and just very intense, and I totally get why women go through this transition period where they go, I can't do this, because I was totally there. I wish I had been more on top of it and I had really tuned into the training and the practices that we've done for the Bradley class, because I really feel like if we had done those relaxation practices that we've been practicing, I would have been able to handle it a lot better. But we didn't think about it in the moment, of course. So going forward, the OB went ahead and decided that, you know what, he doesn't need to see me. I can continue going to my midwives exclusively unless we feel the need that I need to be seen by the OB again. In which case, I can just make an appointment with him, no problem. I'm already an established patient of his now, technically. And he seemed very confident that I will be able to achieve the birth that I wanted with the midwives. The only thing is, I have to make it to 37 weeks. That's their cutoff. They cannot attend a birth before 37 weeks gestation. So I have 8 more weeks to go. I just have to keep him in for 8 more weeks. And as long as this Precardia keeps doing what it's supposed to and what it is doing for me right now, that shouldn't be an issue. I was not given any sort of restriction, so no bed rest, no pelvic rest. The doctor really seems to think that this medicine is exactly what I need, and it does seem to be that's the case. That being said, I personally am very much listening to my body. Today was my first day out of the hospital. I was just released yesterday, and so today and the next couple of days going forward, I will definitely be taking it very easy. I've put myself on pelvic rest. I've put myself on modified bed rest. I really am trying to not do too much. Another thing that was brought up was the possibility of me being given a dose of steroids at 34 weeks. And that would be to help the baby's lungs be more fully developed if my body were to decide to go into preterm labor. And so that isn't a for sure thing that would happen, but it sounded like there was a pretty good chance that it's going to happen. And again, it's purely just in case for the baby. And as much as I don't want to go through that, because what a dose of a steroid shot is actually 2 shots 24 hours apart, and they're intramuscular, which means it's a bigger needle and it goes into your muscle instead of just into your skin. But whatever I need to do to help the baby, to give him the best chance, is what I will do. Just a quick little funny thing that's going on with the baby, and this has been going on for weeks, but I didn't know for sure that's what it was, so I didn't bring it up. He gets the hiccups a lot. And it was really funny because when I was on the monitors in the hospital being tracked, we could hear it. The nurse, as she was putting the monitors on and she was looking for him, she goes, "Wait, listen." And she's like, he's got the hiccups. And I was like, oh yeah, I can totally feel that. I didn't know that's what that was. Because it's not like this huge jump like I thought it would be. It's not like a huge hiccup like I thought it would be. It's just this tiny little rhythmic tap. And actually, because he's so low, I feel most of it through my cervix. Other than that, I am completely exhausted, understandably, and my round ligaments are very sore. My appointment, we did go over my vitals like we always do. My weight gain was up to 144 pounds, so I only gained 3 pounds this past month instead of, you know, the 6 that I had been gaining. Altogether, from pre-pregnancy weight, I have gained only 7 pounds. Because I am so sore in my round ligaments, and because my uterus has been so crazy, my midwife went ahead and gave me a natural supplement called Cramp Bark, and they use it a lot to help women with painful menstrual cramps, and it's supposed to help calm your uterus. And I tried that for the first time. From what I can tell, it did amazing. That is basically my update. One final thing, and then I'm done talking because I'm out of breath and this is a very long video. I have my first stretch mark on my stomach. I just found it today. Looking at it, you really can't tell. I can only see it because when the light hits it right, I can see the shininess of it. It's brand new. I'm pretty sure it just popped up today. So yeah, now that I have one, I have a feeling I'm going to get a whole bunch more really fast, but that's totally okay. Doesn't bother me at all. So that is the craziness that has been my week. And I really hope things calm down from here. And because it's so long, I don't think I'm going to do a belly shot this week. But yeah, that is my update. I hope things are going better for y'all. Let me know if you've experienced anything like this. And I will update you next week. See y'all later.